people that are using fraudulent driver's licenses. They commit crimes. They utilize your identity. If they get caught, suddenly you have a criminal record. Very, very dangerous. And people don't realize that identity theft also, you know, with custody cases, if somebody is an identity thief and they have a record and suddenly your children are at risk because you could be taken down to jail and lose your kids because you are a criminal on the run. And then, of course, there's financial identity theft, which although I'm speaking not about it in detail right here, we will be talking a lot about it, and it's what most people are very familiar with. There, you'll see in some of my articles on silverplanet.com, there, my latest article talks about skimmers, which are very common, where they're components that are put on top of ATM slot machines or gas machine readers, where they actually take the credit card number and the security code, and they can empty, especially if they're debit cards, they can empty bank accounts in minutes. So it's a very, very dangerous. Credit cards can be your friend and they can be your enemy. Same with the check. So this slide is the one that I'll spend, I've spent most time on. I won't spend some time on the slides that follow. Driver's license identity theft, as I had mentioned. You could receive that DWI or DUI, other driving-related charges that aren't actually yours. Imagine losing your driver's license when you need it to get to the doctor, when you need it to take family members around, when you need it to get your food. You could be arrested during a routine traffic stop for crimes that you didn't even commit. So you must be very, very careful in terms of making sure that you're well monitored and you have a service. Just a side comment, and this is what I tell all of my clients and all of my prospective clients, is that I'd say less than 10 years ago, antivirus software was something that we were always reticent against because it cost money. We didn't want to put it on our machines because we didn't want to pay for it. Now everybody realizes that they have to have it. It's critical for the protection of their computers, protection of their information, so people automatically get it. What does that antivirus software do? It doesn't stop a virus from hitting your machine. It just can't. It can protect it as best possible, but it does clean it up. The best identity theft solutions out there are the ones that are able to effectively clean you up, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But now, just as antivirus software, identity theft protection is mandatory for everyone. So here's an example from the a letter from the state of Colorado where the Social Security number for this was not consistent. And why? Because somebody else had taken that Social Security number and tried to use that, or had used that Social Security number to obtain another driver's license for themselves. Well, now this person, this innocent person, has to go through immeasurable number of hours and time and stress to rectify that without even knowing who the other person is that's out there using their Social Security number. And they have to go through that pain and trouble with the state to fix it when they're not even the ones that caused the problem. Further, senior community. Senior community nowadays, as an example, my mother, she's in her late 70s. She's quite computer savvy, but not everybody is like that. Many people are targeted because of the fact that they're not aware of the issues, not savvy enough to protect themselves. An 82-year-old grandmother quit driving during the Truman administration. In 2001, she suddenly found herself in what she describes as a living hell after one of her neighbors, arrested on drunk driving charges, pretended to be her. I was told there were warrants for my arrest. I was afraid to answer the phone. If she simply had a service for monitoring and restoring her identity, if she had gotten hit, she wouldn't have had to deal with that. Somebody else would help her fix that immediately. And this is not meant to be a scare tactic. It's just reality, and we'll talk about ways to deal with it. As I had mentioned, Social Security identity, very, very common. You'll see on your Medicare cards that on the older ones at least, I'm not even sure if the newer ones have it, typically have a Social Security number. Be very careful when carrying that around. If you carry your Social Security card, you do not need to carry that around. It is not necessary. Pull it out of your purse, pull it out of your wallet, file it somewhere in your home, somewhere safe. You do not need to carry it. If you have a military ID card for your military medical coverage, you'll see that there is a Social Security number on there. I have one as well. I do not carry it unless it's an emergency situation or unless I'm going to the doctor. And even in that case, just to be safe, I make my own copy of my insurance card or my military ID card to give to the doctor's offices, because these days, and you'll see in my last article, printers, these digital printers of today actually keep an image of everything that's printed on a printer. So your Social Security card, your insurance cards, all of your driver's licenses, your tax documents are all actually stored on these printers and copiers. So make your own copies and hand them over to the people that are asking for them. Make your copies at home. Here's another example of a Target. Target, you know, it's funny, it's ironic that this is another woman who was looking for a job at a Target when it happened so close to me at home with my bank teller. She had an extreme situation where this person actually used her Social Security number to get lots and lots of other jobs. It's destroying people's credit. It's just, you know, from tax perspective, Social Security benefits get all confused. It causes so much trouble. Just make sure that you keep that number safe. It is your identity. It is your real identity. You've got your name. You can easily change your name. But your Social Security number is how you're identified in the world. As we had mentioned, medical identity theft. The cost of medical identity theft, even from a prescription perspective, can be very, very high, because if there's a person that is getting major treatment for a major illness and their drugs are incredibly expensive and they end up going through your insurance company, imagine what's going to happen to your rates, or whether that insurance company is even going to keep you. Just as a comment, I'm going to pass through some of these slides. If you would like to get a copy of this slide deck, Silver Planet is happy to provide that to you. You could just contact them through the Contact Us page on Silver Planet to get this document so you can review it and read it. Oops, I went back too far. As we talked about character and criminal identity theft, imagine if you wanted to go see a family member outside the United States or wanted to take a trip over to Europe and you couldn't get your passport because they thought that you were on the, you know, high crime list. Security checkpoints where they'd stop you and pull you aside and take you through a whole security rundown because they thought you were somebody else. And of course, the most common, as we had discussed, financial thieves rob your account. They get new credit cards in your name. Those credit cards or bills are getting sent to their address rather than yours. You don't even know they exist. And according to the FTC, if 90 days by and there's a bill that's not paid or a charge that's not accounted for, after 90 days, you are actually responsible for it. Before 90 days, in the first 30 days, your credit card company is responsible for it. They have to be notified. In the 60 days, they're only responsible for a portion of it. Skimmers also are very common in restaurants. So when you hand your credit card to someone to charge for your bill, it's easy enough for them to pass that card through a skimmer before they give it back to you. It happened to a client of mine here in Colorado there's a restaurant called Sweet Tomatoes. It's very common. Everybody goes. It's a family restaurant. And the woman behind the cashier's desk dropped his card, intended to drop his card. She dropped it on purpose, not accidentally, skimmed the card, charged him, of course, for the dinner, gave it back to him, and not even an hour later there was a $1,000 charge on his card. Luckily, he caught it very quickly, and it didn't go very far, but that's a very, very good example. And it just takes a second to skim that card, a second. So what can you do outside of having an identity theft service like the one that I provide, ID Theft Shield? The Federal Trade Commission is really working hard to inform us, the public, on how to fight back. FTC.gov/ID theft is a great resource. They provide also free publications, free CDs. Go there, read the article, order some of that free material. If you have any questions, they're very interactive. Go there and get all of those, take advantage of all those resources. And further, Silver Planet is fantastic about that, not only with the work that we do together, but scam alerts are always kept up to date on the website with the work that they do with other attorneys and other resources that are necessary when you're a victim of identity theft. Utilize Silver Planet as your resource as well. So here's some example of bank fights. This is the Krinky family and what happened to them. In 2003, the Krinky family was sued by Homecoming Financial Network, a division of GMAC, for $75,000 plus attorney's fees. In 2001, an imposter got hold of a line of credit, switched the address, and the Krinkys never received the outstanding bills. And that refers back to what I told you about credit cards. Switching address is as easy as walking into the postal service, filling out a little white card, and handing it to the clerk. You don't even need any proof of identification. So your address can be switched on a dime. Homecoming claimed the Krinkys had been negligent. The Krinkys were slow to discover and report the identity theft. As such, Krinky was liable for any and all sums attributed to negligence. And that's where I refer back to the FTC rule that over 90 days, if you don't dispute it, it's yours, you own it. Krinky's attorney said victims who don't have the means to find a good lawyer, and I may add, have a good service, a reliable service, working for them, may be losing out in battles with financial institutions. So I don't know if anybody knows Susie Orman. She did a commercial for ran a commercial for about a year